Well, hello everyone and welcome back to Ponderosa North for the love of Bonanza. Today it's all about the wardrobe. Yes, the very iconic wardrobe that we all know and love, but it did evolve from the very beginnings of the show. I'm just going to read you an article from Bonanza Gold magazine. There was an article in there of David Dortort's daughter Wendy, and people would ask her questions. So I'm just going to start this episode reading this article about the wardrobe. Dad, meaning David Dortort, had all the actors initially fitted for their outfits at the Paramount Wardrobe Department. They kept an enormous stock of all types and sizes of clothing and accessories. Their personnel manning the cupboards, drawers, and racks are extremely well versed in costume design and authenticity, and they had a staff of excellent tailors. Dad usually agreed with the wardrobe staff's selections for the costuming. Wardrobe was a wonderful place to visit, as I can attest, with racks and racks of period clothing from all eras and contemporary and fantastical garb as well. If we had a family outing planned for a visit to snow country, for example, we never had to look any further for cold weather attire. What a place for kids to play dress up. Of course, we were never allowed to run free of the place and always had strict supervision on any visit, Wendy says. Initially, Adam Cartwright was dressed in clothing of various colors. Before long, however, Pernell Roberts himself voiced the suggestion that if Adam were to dress only in black, it would give him more definition and panache. He approached Dad with his thought, and Dad gave him the go-ahead if it would make Pernell more comfortable with the part of Adam. Once Adam began dressing in black, his character indeed became clearer and more consistent. Dad agreed 100% with Pernell that the black clothing led to greater audience identification with both the character of Adam Cartwright and with Bonanza in general. Little Joe, who wore black gloves outside for the first time, and Dad felt that was okay. It was generally cold on winter location shoots, and the gloves seemed appropriate as hand-warming apparel. Dad is unaware if Michael himself had a problem with cold hands. He never thought to question him about it. Dad cannot now remember if there was a more specific reason for Little Joe to wear black gloves. I think it probably just looked good. I think that's probably why. And a working cowboy usually wore gloves, so it kind of made sense. I mean, protect those hands. So I'm going to go back in time and show you where we started with wardrobe with our boys. Here is a very, very early postcard of Adam. Look, I mean, nowhere near what we are used to seeing. Probably a pre-production picture. This is a European postcard, so I'm not really sure where that came from. But in the early days, this is from the pilot. You can see the wardrobe, the hats. I mean, Haas always wore that 10-gallon hat. That was really the only thing that was consistent. Adam wore sort of a beigey gray hat, and Ben wore different hats, sometimes even a black hat. That was kind of a no-no, because black hats meant bad guys. White hats meant good guys, right? So all over the board there. Very, very different. Adam was often wore chaps, which I wish he would have worn more because they look so good on him. I think I have another picture of him in here in chaps. Amazing. Come on. Could we please have more of that? He wore chaps very early in the series, but never later. Talking about Ben's hats, he's very, very different. He did wear the vest, but sort of a beigey kind of nondescript hat. Adam wore this gray one for a while. Red shirts and plaid shirts and that kind of thing. Haas, very consistent. Always wore that 10-gallon hat. His vest sort of changed over time. This one was more intricate and leather, I believe, and then he went to a suede one. Again, here's another early one of Adam. So sometimes a neck cloth. I mean, we don't, in later years, we never would think of Adam wearing a neck cloth. Again, Haas, very consistent. No matter what, even, it didn't really matter what he was wearing. He was very distinctive with that hat. And I always love this picture of Little Joe. I always called his black hat. He started out, in early days, he wore like a light blue jacket and black boots. He always wore sort of the gray pants, but he had this little black, I always called it his baby hat because it was so tiny. It didn't do him much good except keep the sun off. But that's little Joe's little baby hat, I used to call it. And that's how they used to dress up. The three boys, when they were going out or going to church or something like that, all they do is wear the regular clothes and add a tie, right? Not Ben. Oh no. Ben went all out. Ben had a proper wardrobe. He really knew how to dress up. He had beautiful, beautiful tailored coats when he was at a dance or at a function. He really knew how to dress up. No, he just didn't add a tie to it, and then that was it. Sorry, I've knocked some stuff over here. Again, an early one of Ben wearing a red shirt, fairly consistent with this vest, which I got to wear at a convention one time, and a neckcloth. Ben always wore a neckcloth. This is how we're used to seeing Ben. We're used to seeing him like this. Got the white hat, sort of a beigey hat, but a white hat. That leather vest, iconic, and a neckcloth, and quite a nice rig of gun belt. But that is typical Ben right there. Here's another earlier picture. Yeah, you can see the wardrobe is just kind of all over the place. There's Mike with a neckcloth. Yeah, different, very, very different. That's at the very beginnings. And then we move on to the Candy years. Here we are with this is how we know our Cartwright boys. They're with their coats and such. There's Candy, dressed in Adam's previous costumes. I never understood that. I mean, Wendy just said they had a plethora of things to wear. I don't know why they dressed Candy in Adam's early attire. I don't get it. This is how we're used to seeing Adam. His black hat. Made him the black sheep. Everybody else was wearing a light colored hat. Not him. No way. In the last season, consistent Haas in his 10-gallon hat. And this is the very iconic dress of little Joe Cartwright. His green jacket and sort of a beigey pinky shirt, the beigey hat, and the beige pants, which were very short. They were like capris. See, here they are. Very short pants, but iconic. And here they are at the Ponderosa Ranch House in Incline Village, in costume. Very consistent. Adam always wore this sort of buckskin kind of coat. Wore that a lot. And David Canary said that, you know, they used to get their doubles up there in Lake Tahoe and, you know, do their long shots. And that was really the main reason why they wore the same thing every day, is that, you know, they could be seen from a distance. You knew exactly who was riding where and who was coming in. And I always like to say, too, is that when you walked into the Ponderosa Ranch House, there was a hat rack by the door. And you always knew who was home or who wasn't home by the hats hanging on the hat rack. And I believe that those 4 hats are in the Smithsonian. Very iconic Western garb, and our beautiful Ben Cartwright with his neckcloth, and just an iconic figure. So that's it for the wardrobe of our Bonanza boys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Especially share, if you wouldn't mind. And we'll see you next time. Ponderosa North for the love of Bonanza.